You are listening to Two Rare Mama Bears, a Cure CMD podcast where we discuss all things congenital muscular dystrophy and rare disease. I am Matty Manley, a Pacific Northwest mom to an adorable son with CMD.
And I am Meyer, a Midwest mom to a sweet daughter with CMD. Together, we are Two Rare Mama Bears.
We hope to share with you challenges, struggles, triumphs, and accolades in the congenital muscular dystrophy and rare disease community, while learning and growing along the way. We are here today, Megan and Lani and I, for Cure CMD's 2021 SciFam recording. I think the last time we were all together in person was SciFam in 2019. So here we are again for this year.
It's been too long. I miss you guys.
I know.
I miss everybody, all of the community. So hopefully life can return to new normal sometime and we can all be together again. Until then, virtual hug.
And at least we still get to do this virtually and do SciFam again this year this way.
So Lani, thanks for joining us for this recording and this podcast. It is superb to get another mama bear on the boat with us.
Rawr.
Rawr. And from the sounds of things, we're going to go into some mama bearness today.
Mm-hmm.
So can you chat real briefly about your blog and how it started? And then we're going to discuss one of your latest blog posts.
So I needed a way to process things as a rare mom, and writing has always been something I really enjoy. And so in 2016, I decided that I'd start this blog, and I started it really quietly. I kind of just started building it. I really didn't tell anybody I was doing it. And then I kind of shared it with family and friends, and it's kind of grown since there. I was invited to participate in a writing circle in my community. So I actually get to test out some of my writing with them before I post it now. And they asked me a question: why do I make it a blog and not just journaling, right? If it's just me trying to figure things out. But I also wanted it to be a place where, you know, as a parent, you get this diagnosis and you start Googling, because that's what we do, that you could find me and that I could connect you with the rest of the SEP1 community, but also the CMD community as well. So that's why it's titled Our SEP1 Life, which I know we're not calling it SEP1 these days, but so maybe it's
our SEP1 / Selenon.
Yes, yeah, maybe it needs a rebrand here soon, but yeah, I just wanted it to be a place where I could work out my thoughts and feelings as a mom to two boys with SEP1, but also for a place for newly diagnosed moms and dads to find, so that when you're frantically Googling at midnight, you can find a friendly face. So, and I have a way of people can contact me through the blog, and people have, and that's been a great way to connect people too. So
the blog is oursep1life.wordpress.com.
Correct.
For anyone that wants to go out and read after we're done here. I can tell you, each time Lani posts something, she'll also share it to her social media. And that's how it hits me, is I see it come across social media and I read it, and every single time I'm always like, nail on the head. Absolutely. Yes. Which is funny, because Lani will say similar when listening to our podcast, since she's, out walking her dog, she's throwing her hands up in the air.
I do. I think my neighbors might think I'm a little crazy, because I'm always like, yes.
So you write to get stuff off your chest, and Manny and I just chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, everybody's different. I just really enjoy writing, and I also like the challenge of it, and it gives me time to kind of think through it. And honestly, a lot of times I just dump all of my thoughts down, and then I edit it to make it make sense. So that's kind of my process.
So the one we're going to chat about today was 6 things I have learned while raising 2 boys with SEP1-related myopathy. It could probably be a list of a dozen?
Yeah, it could have been longer. So I wrote this as a writing exercise for my writing circle. And I actually wrote it 4 years ago, but just never posted it. But the exercise was, the writing prompt was 5 things. And I even cheated a little bit and made it 6. So that's why it's only 6. But yes, it could have been a lot more.
Fair. The first one, the question's why me? Let's kind of dive into that one. So do y'all ever think, why my child? Why our family? Why me?
I did a lot at first. And Peter, our oldest son, asked that question a lot when he, even at a very young age, 5, 6, he kept saying, why me? Why me? It was exhausting because there's no, like I said in the blog, there's really no answer. And the turning point for me was I was a music teacher for a long time and went to a conference and saw a session on resiliency in children. And so I went to it more as a mom than as a teacher. And the main thing I got out of it from this professor of psychology was that resilient kids ask what for, not why. And that really helped shift my thoughts about that. And so I don't really think about why anymore. But if you are thinking why, completely valid, because I thought about it a long, long time.
I think it's definitely a process that you go through, especially initially when so much information coming in and trying to process all of it, and all the like logistical information and all of the emotional things that you're going through, and then having your kid, if they're at that age, also asking you why, which is a hard one to answer as a parent.
Kids just don't have that level of reasoning to be able to understand why the why question doesn't make sense, and that whole prefrontal cortex. So yeah, it's hard enough for adults to figure it out.
I would say my daughter asked that only briefly. It was a lot to try to unpack. We ended up getting to the point of, like, it's the cards we were dealt. So why not us? Let's make the most of it. And so to a certain extent now she celebrates that she has a disability, and that it's part of what makes her unique. She acknowledges it's not the only thing, but it's part of what makes her unique. So in that sense, had this not happened to our family, I would not know the lovely two of you or the other community members. So I've made some of my best friends from this life. So
yeah.
Silver lining. Your second one was there are a lot of wonderful, good-hearted people in this world, and our family has received irreplaceable support from family, church family, friends, doctors, researchers, and caregivers who only want the best for our boys. These people have opened their hearts to us, listened to us, rooted for us, and continue to stand by our side. I think maybe that talks slightly about what I just touched on, that if we weren't in this life, we wouldn't know a community that rallies around us. For y'all, is there a one certain part of your community that has surprised you or touched your heart or whatever it might be?
For us, it's really our neighborhood and our school families that have really come through for us. The boys go to neighborhood schools, so we know all of our neighbors. They just are great. If we say, hey, we need this, one example is early in the pandemic, we couldn't find distilled water for their BiPAPs very easily, and many places were limiting how much you could purchase. And I just happened to mention it to a friend when I, ran into her on a walk with the dog, and the next day there were 2 gallons of distilled water on my stoop. So it's just even little things like that it's just amazing. And I know if I had put out a call on Facebook, we would have had 20 gallons. So
I know our school community has been a big one for us too. when we did some fundraising a couple years ago and just kind of put it out there to a few people at the school to join us. We had probably 30 people from the school show up, and we had no idea that they would come and walk with us and do the fundraising and just be there. And Matthew's face as he saw all these people filtering in that he knew from school just melted my heart and made my day. I couldn't be more thankful. And then when the pandemic started, we got lots of messages from people from school going, do you guys need anything specifically? How can we help? What can we do? And just the reaching out because they thought of Matthew and us was less lonely. So
I would say my daughter's school community during the pandemic has been really good. She even changed schools from spring 20 to fall 20. But she's been online program all of this school year. But the school community has been really good in, without question, understanding why we're so cautious and staying home and all of that, and understanding it's just part of us. And that's been heartwarming. It feels good not having to explain, explain, right?
Yeah. So
on the other hand, number 3, there's lots of jerks in this world that sometimes make comments that hurt
a lot.
Yeah. I know it's really kind of funny because it's very timely, but I wrote this way before we knew what a pandemic was.
We see such, I feel like we get to see such a spectrum of, we see the most genuine, generous people that you're just like, sometimes my mind is blown how they just like step out and are right there. And then on the other hand, you see some not so lovely people.
Yeah, sometimes people say dumb things, and I don't think they mean to, or they just don't know what to say. And I get that. I understand. They're just not really. They just don't really know.
I think there's a lot of comments that people say occasionally to stir the pot, and they know they're stirring the pot, without maybe realizing how much they hurt. Or action. It's not even words, it's actions. And this pandemic has shown that. On the other hand, I guess the pandemic has maybe taught some people some new habits that will be good for people like us.
Keep washing your hands, people.
Fingers crossed.
Keep sanitizing surfaces, people.
Yeah.
Don't go to work when you're sick.
Yes.
So maybe not everybody's a jerk, but there are jerks out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I wrote that, we had gone through a particularly difficult stretch, and it just felt like they had no desire to even understand who we are and what our life is like. I mean, we carry a lot of unnecessary burden, and then you add on people who have no empathy or compassion for you, and that just makes it worse.
I don't think it's unnecessary burden. It's necessary for our families, right? So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more like the pandemic, like if everybody does this.
Yeah.
But
and I think, like you said, like there are some people that just don't know what to say or how to say it, and so it may come off insensitive, but at the same time it's like, oh, I feel like that's a different group of people. Like I'd rather take that, this came out wrong, but I'm just trying to be genuine and understand, versus the group that just doesn't want to understand.
So I have a question. When you get comments like that or see something happening, do you take the opportunity to educate that person, or do you just keep going? Because quite frankly, it's taken enough energy to do life as normal. Do I want to divert energy to somebody that maybe won't be receptive to it?
I think it depends on the situation. I live in the Midwest, so we love passive aggressiveness. So sometimes it's just a comment under the breath as they're passing us. And so I'm not going to turn around and be like, look, but yeah, I do try to educate when I can.
I think it totally depends on the situation and how much energy I have that day.
Yes.
How much, if my kids are with me, all those kind of factors, because there are times where it's been like, oh, we're gonna have words about this. And then there's times where it's like, I'm not doing this in front of my kids today because they're nice and little and we're gonna move on.
They don't need to see mom lose her brain.
Yeah.
At least not right now.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, it's so hard. It's such a balance of how do you make that like a conversation and not just be throwing words at a brick wall in those scenarios, and how much of self-preservation do you keep in this situation?
I will say, when people ask questions, like genuine, like they're just curious, I'm happy to answer those questions because they genuinely want to know what our life is like. And I don't think people should shy away from asking questions. It's just, you can do it in a nice way and without judgment. And
so number 4 relates to doctors don't know everything, and that often families like ours become the educators of what the condition is about, considerations that should be made, and that kind of thing. So unpack that one a little bit.
Yeah, I would always get a little angry early on, and then I realized how rare this was. And our team that we've assembled, they all know what Step 1 is, right? And they, we've been doing this long enough with them that they know. But I was thinking in particular, a few, when the boys were little, we were constantly at the urgent care. And so you just get whoever, right? And we had 2 experiences, one in which she seemed like a fairly new doctor. And I was explaining a little bit about their condition. We were in for like strep or something, something that, just do the test and give us the medication. But she was like writing down what the condition was, and I was explaining what it is. And I really, got the impression she was going to go research more about that. And as opposed to one other time we went to urgent care and the strep was negative or whatever. And so they weren't going to give us antibiotics, but I don't remember which son it was, but was having a hard time breathing. And I'm like, well, what's the plan? And she looked at me and she's like, well, we can't give you antibiotics. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I don't want antibiotics. If we don't need antibiotics, I want to know, how can I get my son to breathe properly? Do we need albuterol? Do we need, what do we need here? And so sometimes it's almost like they don't understand even the question that I'm asking. So you just have to be like, no, this is, it's Saturday at 4:00. The pulmonologist is not at work, so you need to help me with this.
I would say with us, early on, pre-diagnosis, even shortly after diagnosis, there was a bit of educating going on. And it was frustrating because you search so long for diagnosis that once you hit that, you just don't want to fight that fight after it. So it's disheartening to deal with that afterward, right? I would say we had that a little bit. And the other part of it is somebody that we've been established with, you could kind of tell they weren't maybe reading the latest literature or even reading the chart before coming in. And you feel like you're repeating yourself, like 4 or 5 times. And that is also disheartening because if you're a family like ours, you're seeing more specialists than you can count on one hand, usually. So you feel like you're telling the same story either multiple times in the same day if you see them back to back, or like I've just told this, the last 4 appointments. Y'all are in the same health system. Like, please go read. So it's not, to me, I guess I haven't felt like it's not that they don't know everything, because I acknowledge there's a lot of rare diseases. It would be a lot to know. The part that is frustrating to me is sometimes it feels like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and I don't want to play the middleman.
Yeah. I think the not reading the chart is like something that frustrates me the most, where it's like, did you look to see who you have an appointment with today? And I know we all know doctors are busy and crazy busy. But I was like, did you look at what his diagnosis was and like any of the symptoms that go with it before you came in to ask questions of why we're here? For doctors that we see regularly. And I think, but like Megan said, when you first get that diagnosis, you're like, okay, now give me all the information. You are the doctor, you have found the answer, pass all the information to me. And they're like, so you can Google it. Wait, what? So
we're never going to know what it's like to have this disability, but we are our children's best allies. Maybe not the best some days,
but we try.
We try
to be their best allies. Does this kind of sit with where the mama bear wants to come in and take away that pain and take the shot instead of them getting the shot, or you be on the operating table rather than them? Would you say this is maybe one of the first spots both of you felt mama bear come out?
Yes. I think if I could trade, I would take it if I could. At the same time, his personality is so fierce and strong-willed and everything, and I think part of that comes from things that he's learned having Step N1, like the way he navigates problems and is resilient and tries to problem solve blows my mind so many times. And I think a lot of that is because how he's adapted to different scenarios because of his disability.
Yeah, I've tried really hard in writing my blog to not try and speak for them, and that I think that's kind of also where that's coming from. I want to remember that I can talk about my journey as a rare mom, but I can't speak for them 100%. And but yes, I totally agree with Maddie. It's also I want to take it from him, but I can't.
Yeah. I think that, at least for me, I found strength in identifying into the disability community, even though I'm not in the same physical disability space that my daughter is. But I will for sure identify as an ally to take things head on. And if that is trying to help ease some of her anxieties that come along with this, and to another extent take the anxiety away from her and I'll take it on myself, then so be it. But yeah, you're right. I can't be her voice. She needs to learn to advocate for herself.
Yeah, that's something we talk about a lot, especially now that the boys they're going to be in high school and middle school this fall. And, I don't have as much contact with teachers, and I mean, they know who I am, but, they need to be able to speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves. And
maybe we're the toolbox that gets them there.
Yeah. And someday they're going to have to take care of their BiPAP themselves and, all of those things. So.
Lani, your kids are a little bit older than mine and Maddie's. How has that path to independence, as independent as they can be at their ages,
right,
how's that gone?
We just really have tried to emphasize, we just really have tried to emphasize in all things, even if it's not related to SEP-1, that they need to problem solve it and they need to figure it out, that we're there to help them. We're there to, run ideas. They're involved in school programs where problem solving is a huge part of it. So I think just by encouraging them and giving them the confidence that they can do it themselves, and providing situations where they can practice and try things in a safe way, which I think you want to do for any child, but some of their skills are a little different. But
we've been trying lately, and she's 10. We've been trying to reiterate to her she can do certain things that she previously was asking for our help. And some of that confidence building for us has been a struggle to get her to build her confidence level to this point that she can feel independent in doing that without us doing some of the tasks for her that we always have. Which is why I asked. That's where that question came from. Is help me learn, Mama.
Yeah. Well, they still have chores. I mean, they're not going to mow the grass, but with a push mower, but they can unload a dishwasher. Also, just framing it, ever since they were little, like, this is just who you are. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just part of who you are. And so, if you're doing an activity at school and you're not the fastest, that's okay. That's just how it is. And I think just for them to understand, like, disability has in the past been such a hush hush shameful thing, to just be proud of that and be proud of who they are and what they can accomplish themselves. And again, just like any other child, finding their strengths.
Number 6, you wrote, I am one badass mother.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, that was the edited version. When I wrote it for my writing circle, I may have used other bad words.
Other language. Okay. Yes. We're all friends here.
My mom reads the blog though, so I had to keep it clean.
I think Maddie and I have talked about this before, that we've came with strength we didn't know we had because of this life. And Maddie's found her voice. And is not afraid now to.
Let me tell you, let's talk about this. I'm not sure everybody else appreciates that, but
Maddie before might have been like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is for sure. And I know we've talked about that, but man, we are pretty awesome. Just putting it out there.
Mama, you are one advocacy badass. Speaking for our community and leading the group, keeping everybody on task, and doing it right before a pandemic hit. I mean, that was unreal that you guys were on Capitol Hill at the end of February.
I know. It was mind-boggling. I mean, it was so fast how quickly things changed. I mean, right after I got back from DC, which was the end of February 2020, I took Peter to a appointment at Children's, and it was the first time I'd ever been asked, have you traveled outside of the state in the last 2 weeks? And I had to say, yes, I had. I didn't know why, so it was pretty crazy. I mean, COVID was just sort of rumblings when we were there, and then everything kind of blew up after that. But yeah, I think when you invited me to come to Rare Disease Week with you in 2019, I thought it'd be fun just to hang out with you, go to DC, and sometimes it's nice to take a little trip by yourself.
Mom trip.
And I think I just found my voice, but also just kind of caught a bug, and want other people to understand that you don't have to like politics to be an advocate.
You don't really have to know. I mean, the very basics are great to know, but they teach you that when you get there.
Right.
And there's so many different forms of advocacy.
Yes, absolutely.
I applaud you to the CMD community, getting the word out, and the word is in multiple different venues they could go down. Mm-hmm. So over the last 3 or 4 years of knowing you, I would say I've seen that growth in you, and I thank you for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it answers that question we talked about at the beginning, the what for, and this is my what for. And if it brings voice to other people or encourages others in any disability community to speak out as an advocate, that's great. I think that's the teacher in me, having been a teacher for a long time, and I just want other people to feel the same confidence and empowerment that I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say for myself, the growth in becoming this mama bear has probably been the knowing who's in my pack and how to tap into those other moms in my pack to have my back, because I would say that's probably not something I was great at before. Mm-hmm. I knew like the grandma part of the pack, but I wasn't great about it before, and I've gotten better at it. So I'm happy that I grew in that sense. I already had voice before and wasn't afraid to use it.
Yeah, I wasn't super shy either.
Yeah. So from that sense, I would say that that's been growth that I've had. Thank God, because we need it. But you ended your blog post with "This mama bear is always on the prowl." So two things with that, and then I think we can start to wrap up, that I think, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts, are one, some people in the greater community of the world think being a mama bear is a bad thing, that it's frightening, and some think it's admirable. Any thoughts that you want to give on changing either of those opinions?
I think both of those apply. I think both of them are probably very fitting. Frightening on both sides. It can be a little scary to be out there and be that, for me, it was a little scary at first to be that like in somebody's face and aggressive and be like, no, that's not what we're doing. Like, my son needs this. This is what we're doing now. And some other people should probably be a little scared of some of the mama bears and realize that they are a force to be reckoned with. And it is an admirable place to be, and situation to be in where you have that kind of protection and instinct and everything about your little ones or big ones.
They're getting bigger all the time.
I know. Make it
Keep
stop.
doing that. I think it's out of necessity that we are protective. Sometimes being a mama bear feels like a burden. Not that my children are a burden, but that I have to be on high alert all the time. I mean, I had to be a mama bear at the dentist like a year ago. And I mean, geez, come on. Dentist should be the easy one, right? Not. So
it's not. Nope, they don't understand either.
No, and it just it can be exhausting, but I don't really think there's a choice. I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect my children and to get them the best care that they can get. and hopefully someday have treatment for their disease. So it can be exhausting.
Funny story to wrap this up. A dear friend of mine who also is in the muscular dystrophy space, shout out, hey Carrie, sees the same medical team that we do. And Carrie tells me that medical team has termed her the Mama Beast, because Carrie will not take no for an answer, ever, ever, ever. And I guess when she turns it up and the medical team is there to support her in what the resources are that she needs from the team, they're like, oh, the beast is on the prowl. And recently I was going through a struggle trying to get something approved by insurance, and I'm texting Carrie and she writes back and says, turn on beast mode. And I'm like, huh? What?
Beast mode. Love
and
it.
She goes, the point where the mama bear, it goes beyond a bear and is taking 0 no's for an answer and plowing through everything. And I'm like, okay, got it. Beast is on. I'm there. And, you know, by the grace of God, that struggle got approved. Thank God. Mm-hmm. So the beast part I thought was comical yet fitting. So for you other moms, dads, caregivers out there, if you need it, turn on your beast mode.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that one.
Go for it. I invite everybody to use it. Well, thanks for listening today. Thanks for joining in with us today. We hope you all have a good rest of SciFam and have a good chance to reflect on the 6 things you've learned while living in this life. Thanks for joining us and listening to 2 Rare Mama Bears, a Cure CMD podcast, where these 2 mama bears will leave no stone unturned.
Because failure is not an option. This podcast is nothing without you, our listeners. We welcome your feedback and topic suggestions. Please interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, where you will find us, 2 Rare Mama Bears. Please subscribe to our podcast to receive notifications of new episodes and give us a rating or review.
We would like to thank the talented individuals who keep us on task and make this podcast sound great, Luke Manley and Justin Meyer, respectively.